up here before I take this right-hand turn. That is Albemarle High School right there, where I went to high school for a little while, for a couple grades in high school. And this is a shop that I used to go to after school a lot. It was called something else back then. It wasn't called Hilltop Market. I can't remember what it was called. This right here is Hydraulic Road. This road goes back through to my parents' house where I'm staying at. And this is the road that my high school is on, Albemarle High School. One of the high schools I went to for 10th and half of 11th grade. I'll try to get this up a little higher. I'm going to be taking a left on Earlysville Road. Earlysville Road takes you out to Earlysville. If you are familiar with the Charlottesville, Virginia area, you'll know Earlysville Road. There's an old church right there. But I used to love driving on Earlysville Road because there's a lot of twists and turns, and there's some hills, and it's always fun driving on Earlysville Road. A sad story is that there was this girl that passed away. She was a year older than me. She got into a car wreck out on Earlysville Road, on the road I'm about to take. This was back in 2002, I believe. It was sad. There was drinking involved. I think they had gone to a party. There were three of them, three young ladies, and one passed away, and the other two walked away with one with some pretty serious injuries, the other one with not so serious injuries. It was a sad thing. So every time I drive on this road, whenever I'm back visiting my parents, I always pass that part with some reverence and respect. But this is the road here. It's very beautiful. You can start to see some of the mountains, some of the Blue Ridge Mountains. You can probably see them in the distance right there as you come up. You can see that this is a hilly area. There are a lot of hills and a lot of mountains. We're right at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains out here in Charlottesville. It's a beautiful area. And when you come through driving here as an adult, you start to notice things that you wouldn't normally notice, like that nature area. I was never active as far as walking when I was a kid, so I would have never known about that nature area because that was something I just never did. I've actually never been down that road before, Woodlands, but right here is a reservoir / river. I think it's the Rivanna River. It's the river that runs through Charlottesville. Very beautiful. A lot of people like to canoe there. There's a lot of churches out here as well. This is a twisty, meandering road, but it's one of my favorite roads in Charlottesville because of how pretty it is, because of how it's tucked back into the woods, and because it's fun to drive, especially because this rental car that I'm in, it's a Jetta hatchback, and it's got some pretty nice maneuvering ability. Put the camera up a little higher. Yeah, it's a great road out here. I remember driving it as a kid quite often. I had a friend whose mom lived out here at the other end of Earlysville Road. I can't remember what road, but he was a good friend. I used to go to his house a lot in high school, pretty much every Friday. And we would just hang out, have fun. Me, and his younger brother. It's good to see that this area hasn't been built up too much in the past 20 years since I was in high school. But you can definitely see that there have been some houses that have been built. out here, and that the construction and land development is starting to creep out into even here. But you have houses like that own a lot of real estate that will probably never sell their land. And there was a cop back there. That's another deal about Virginia, is it's not like Michigan. You get pulled over quick out here in Virginia, and the penalties for speeding are excessive. If you get caught speeding, you're going to pay the price. You got to go to driver's school and all sorts of stuff, especially if you're going more than 10 over. Yeah, this is Earlysville Road. You get the gist of it. It is quite rural, but it's also within 10 to 15 minutes of downtown Charlottesville. So you get the picture. Okay, we're coming to the end of Earlysville Road here. This is the airport. You can see an airplane flying out. This is the Charlottesville Albemarle Airport. It's a pretty nice airport. I've flown in and out of here a couple times. They have some pretty convenient flights, but they don't have any Delta flights that go in and out of here, to my knowledge, or at least when I came out here this time. So I had to fly into Richmond, which was fine. But again, you can see the mountains off here in the distance. This is a great area. A lot of people like living here. It's become more expensive to live here, probably because of the demand, but also I think because of the restriction uses on the land, where you have a lot of historical sites here and you can't use a lot of the land that would otherwise be available because they're protected by law. But right now I'm headed toward where I spent some time going to elementary school and middle school. I'm about 5-6 minutes away from that area. Everybody who lives in this area in Charlottesville goes to that school that I passed, Albemarle High School, which is about 10 or 15 minutes in the opposite direction of where we just came from. We're actually coming up on the airport now and coming to another roundabout. These roundabouts have probably been here for the past decade or so. They weren't here when I was a kid. Roundabouts are a European deal, but I like them better than stoplights because they let the traffic flow a little more smoothly. I spent a lot of time driving on this road as a kid because I went to church about 5 minutes in the direction that I'm going. This is, I think it's called Deer Lake or Deer Park up here, is the main neighborhood in this area. And there's Laurel Hill. That church has been around for a long time. Long time. And those houses back there are new. I don't think that they were there last time I visited, or they were just being built. This is a great view right here. This is one of my favorite views here in North Charlottesville. You can see the mountains off there in the distance. There are not many places that have the scenery as beautiful as Charlottesville. And this Sheets here, this is definitely new. This was not here last time I was here. Sheets is popular in the northeastern part of the United States. There's a lot of them here in Virginia, but that one I don't remember seeing before. A guy that I went to high school, middle school with owns a restaurant over that way, going south. This is 29 Seminole Trail. I'm probably going to go stop in there and support his business. He's always been super nice guy to me. I've known him now since 6th grade. All right, we started moving again, going across 29 onto Prophet Road. I'm going to come up here and pass the church that I used to go to. This area here, this is pretty much new, but this Blue Ridge Farmers building, that's been there forever, for at least since I first moved here in 1994. And then these are new. I have not seen those, too many of those before. Those are still being built up. And this is Maple Grove Christian Church here. This is where I spent many Sundays and Wednesdays. So I'll probably come in here and turn right around. I don't want to stay too long because nobody's here. But yeah, it's amazing being back here. It looks like they're either building an addition to the church or they're building something else. And now they've got this roped off here in the back, but I used to play basketball back here all the time. A lot of memories at this church. A lot of memories. I mean, I went to that church probably every Sunday and every Wednesday from 1994 all the way up until I was in college, minus the days and the years that we spent away from Charlottesville because we moved to Europe and we moved to Northern Virginia. But other than that, we were here in Charlottesville and we were at that church twice a week at least, sometimes more. A lot of good memories, some not so good, but overall, I think it was a good experience and I took as much good as I could from it. And I think the people there most of them had good hearts. So I think that's what matters when it's all said and done. I'm gonna take a left here on Worth. Man, this is bringing back a lot of memories as well. I'm gonna come up here. This is a nice little access crossing road. And it's good to see that this land still hasn't been developed, which is nice. I used to work up here at End Zone Pizza. This was my first job right here, connected to this Food Lion right here. Food Lion is a grocery store mostly in Virginia and North Carolina. But yeah, right in here is where I used to work at. I used to park right up in here. Right here in this building to the right is where I used to work, End Zone Pizza. The pizza's pretty good. It's been around for quite some time. It's been around at least since right around 2002 is when I started working there. So 20 years ago was my first job. Yeah, a lot of memories there. Some good, some not so good. But it's good to see that the guy who owns that place is still in business and he's still making a living for himself. Now I'm going to turn into the first neighborhood that I lived in when I lived in Charlottesville, because we lived here 3 separate times. At least I lived here 3 separate times growing up. And that was the doctor's office that I used to always go to. It looks like it's for lease now. And up here in Timberwood Square, this is the Forest Lakes Swim Club. We used to go swimming here all the time when we were kids. They have this awesome slide, this water slide. It was really cool, and we used to play soccer here all the time. Yeah, they used to divide the fields up. We used to play soccer here all the time. It looks pretty much the same as it did back when I lived here. Pretty amazing. So this is where the pool is at. And the pool looks exactly the same as it did back in 1994. That playground was here back in 1994. Man, coming back here brings back so many memories. It's amazing. This clubhouse, they would serve pizza and French fries and burgers and stuff. And then this pavilion, they used to have parties there. And then there's people who live back there. But there's the beginning of the water slide right there. That water slide, I think it was the first water slide that I had ever been on. Yeah, it was awesome. It had a lot of twists and turns to it. But coming here brings back a ton of memories. Great times from when I was a kid. I don't know if I want to retire in Virginia because it's fairly expensive to live here. Especially as a veteran, they tax your retirement, I believe. there's plenty of other states that don't. That's why a lot of people move to Florida and other states in the southeast like Florida, Alabama, places where the cost of living is a little cheaper. But I'm going into my old neighborhood now, the first neighborhood. We lived in Forest Lakes when we moved here the first time. And this was always the choices you had, because these little subdivisions, they're like little sub-neighborhoods that you can go to, so this little deal directs you. So we would always turn left because we lived in Heather Glen. And then nothing much has changed back here. What I love about this neighborhood, about Forest Lakes, is there's a lot of walking paths. And as I've gotten older, I've become more aware of how much I'm moving. And I always like to have a good path near where I live, whether that's a park or a walking path. But this whole neighborhood is connected by a network of walking paths, which is really nice. So I'm gonna take a left here, and I still know how to get to all these places without using a GPS, which is really nice. And this is it right here, Heather Glen. This is the subdivision that we lived in. And the same people still live there. The Ripley, that's the same people that lived there back in 1994, same name. And that was the house where we lived right there in 1994. This is the first place that we lived in Virginia. A lot of the names are still different. A lot of them are still the same. But yeah, this is awesome. Dang, that is a big pit bull right there. Wow, that is a huge dog, man. Yep, I had a friend that lived there. It's cool to be back here, but then again, there's the house that we all lived in 1994. And then my friend, one of my other friends, lived down here on Lock Lane. Yep. Lived down here on Lock Lane. And then I always liked coming down here to visit him because he was a cool guy and we had a lot of fun hanging out, doing what kids do. But then it backs up to the lake, the man-made lake back here. And there are a lot of cul-de-sacs. I remember when we first moved here, I had never understood what a cul-de-sac was. But then when we moved here, my parents explained to me what a cul-de-sac was. This whole neighborhood, this whole division, Forest Lakes, is full of roads with cul-de-sacs. Now I'm gonna be coming back out. Alright, I'm gonna go over a lot of these neighborhoods are also, thank you very much. A lot of these neighborhoods are connected. This is connected to Forest Lakes South, Forest Lakes North. This neighborhood I'm in right now used to be the only Forest Lakes, but then the land got developed and Forest Lakes South was built. And everything is connected by this road that I'm actually on right now. And it also connects to the school that I went to when I was younger. Both the schools, the elementary school and the middle school that I went to, are right across from each other. And they built the middle school that I went to while I was in elementary school. So I went to Hollymead Elementary School and I went to Sutherland Middle School. And this road that I'm on right now, Timberwood Parkway, connects all these neighborhoods with Hollymead, which is another subdivision where we lived in Hollymead when we came back here for the second time. I remember when we moved here the last time, we almost bought a house in here in Amberfield, but we decided not to. My dad decided not to. We ended up getting the house. He ended up getting the house that my parents live in now and that I'm staying in right now. A lot of people walking. There's a basketball court down this path here to the left. There's a basketball court. We used to go down there and play basketball every now and then. And this is the end of Forest Lakes North, and I'm being connected here on this road to Hollymead. You can see another man-made lake there, and those houses right there are part of Hollymead. This roundabout here separates both of the neighborhoods, but I lived in Forest Lakes North, and I also lived in Hollymead. The schools that I went to are up here on the left in about a 1/10 of a mile. Yeah, a lot of memories walking these paths here, because the second place that we lived when we moved back here in the late 90s is up this road, down this hill to the right, about a mile or so. But I'm going to take this left-hand turn, and I'm going to go into the Hollymead and Sutherland complex right here. And it looks like it's going to be easier for me to find some parking than it was when I tried to park at Albemarle High School. I think schools nowadays have changed their security measures and made things more secure. And it looks like, I didn't notice, but it looks like the name has been changed to Lakeside. I had no idea. Still the home of the Sharks, but now it's Lakeside. Yep, so I'm at the school that I went to. It was renamed Lakeside, and I just did a Google search on it. It was renamed Lakeside here in the past year, and that's because Mortimer Y. Sutherland, he was an educator in the area, but he made several attempts to discourage integration for white students and black students. So it looks like what happened was there was a committee. They went to the superintendent and they changed the name of the school, which I cannot disagree with. It's funny, I had no idea that Mortimer Sutherland had those kind of views, and I went here. A lot of us went here and never knew who the school was named after. Some people might think that that is too much of an embrace of woke culture, but I think it was the right move. Even though he grew up in a time where it was acceptable to do those sorts of things, his ideas likely had a negative impact for black people and other minorities. So I'm proud that somebody started the effort and that it went through and that it was approved. So right now I'm walking over to Hollymead Middle School. This is where I went to Hollymead Elementary School, sorry. This is where I went to elementary school for a few years while we moved around. The building hasn't really changed too much. I remember this area here where these cars are parked, or where the buses used to drop us off every day for school. It's nice being back here. And then you can see that's where you turn in, where everyone turned in. You can see the buses up there. It's cool to be able to walk these grounds without having to worry too much. I'll probably go back here to the playground. A lot of this in here is new as well. This was not here back when I was in elementary school. That field back there was, but this wasn't. Right here, this A3 door, this is where I would come into school every day when I first started coming here. straight from the buses back there. Yeah, brings back a lot of memories being back here, and it's good that there's technology available to where I can document it. So up here, I used to walk here all the time when I was in elementary school here. And then these basketball courts up here, I used to play basketball there every day pretty much. You can see somebody there is playing, which is cool. Yeah. And then all this up here is pretty much new. Like this gym right here, that wasn't there when I went to school here. I think that's a recent construction in the past 5 or 10 years. And then these little doors here to the side, one of my classrooms, my 3rd grade classroom, was one of these doors. I can't remember which one, but it's one of these is my classroom, and I can't get in because I don't have anybody to visit here, and it'd probably be more trouble than it's worth to try to get in. But this is where I used to have PE on this field all the time, physical education. And then my 5th grade class was somewhere back here as well. I think it was one of these doors here. So this is the elementary school that I went to. All right, now I'm back at Lakeside Middle School, formerly known as Sutherland Middle School. When I was there, it was Sutherland Middle School, but the name was changed. These basketball courts right here, I played countless games of basketball on these courts. My favorite court to play on was this one. My favorite basket to play on was this one. I used to ride my bike up from where I used to live up that way, about a mile, before school every day to play basketball, and then I'd go to class. That was in like 6th or 7th grade when I lived here. I think it was 7th grade though, is when I was coming early in the morning. It looks like the hoop is still the same as it was all those years ago. Yeah, and there's a basketball there, right? So I might play some basketball afterwards. But the way it would work is we would have like 11 minutes for recess, which is crazy for a bunch of kids, to keep a whole bunch of kids cooped up in a classroom all day and only give them 11 minutes for recess after lunch. But the cafeteria is right there, so we would come out of the cafeteria through a door right in there past those trees, and then we walk out here for recess. So most of the time, what I would normally do, since I like to play sports, is I would play basketball right here on this court right here, and we would always only play half court. Or I would play football, touch or flag football, mostly touch football, right here on this baseball field. Countless games of two-hand touch football on these fields because we couldn't play tackle football. We weren't allowed to play tackle. But this baseball field doubled as a football field. And then, yeah, we would play right here. And it hasn't changed much. It's still in the same location, still the same thing. But that's the school right there. And then this track right here, we would do our mile run for PE. I think the fastest I ever ran the mile was 6:20. I think it was 6:20, but that's not bad for a 7th grader or a 6th grader. I was real active kid. And then once I got to high school, around the time where I got that job at that pizza place, I thought I could still eat whatever I wanted to eat, so I was eating a whole bunch of pizza. And at the end of high school and into college is when I started gaining a lot of weight and getting real inactive. But we used to play football on this field as well, and we used to play soccer on this field. But we used to run this track here, and it goes all the way around, and I'll walk a little bit, but the track goes all the way around that way as well. But now they have these lines. I don't think they had these lines back when I was going to school here back in the late 90s. But this tennis court was here. I remember one time we had field day at the end of 6th and 7th grade, and field days here, they did it right here at this middle school. They would have pie eating contests, all sorts of crazy stuff. It was awesome. Man, it makes me miss being a kid a lot of the time. I'm definitely glad that I have the life I live and I have my time as a kid, but it would be cool to go back and do it all over again. And who knows, maybe someday in another life you get to go back and do it all over again. Who knows? But for the mile run, we used to come down here, and then we would take this right hand turn up this little hill in between this tennis court and this baseball field. And I never understood this, but this is a big complex of sports fields. There would be a lot of games here. I don't think I ever played any soccer games or football games here in the organized leagues I was in, but I think my brother did. I used to play at that field that I showed you at the Forest Lakes pool. But yeah, we used to run up here, and I remember it brings back memories now because I used to run up here and I used to complain about having to run up a hill. I would always say, even back then, I would always say, man, if it was flat the entire way, or we got to run downhill, I'd be running a couple seconds faster. So even back then, I was trying to optimize. Yeah, now I'm at the downtown mall. The downtown mall is a famous place in Charlottesville that a lot of people come through to have dinner and go shopping. They have this event during the summertime called Fridays After 5. At least they did when I was younger. I used to go there sometimes. They have live music, things like that. But right here is Heather Heyer Way. Heather Heyer is the person who was killed during the white supremacist riots in 2017 in Charlottesville when they took down Robert E. Lee's statue. I actually went to church with her growing up. I didn't know her very well, but I knew her well enough to remember her. We went to the same youth group together. We were in the same youth group at the church that I showed you. It was a shame that she passed away, and I'm glad that they have a street named after her here. We're coming into the downtown mall now. It's a nice spot. I haven't seen too many places like this in other parts of the country. It's a nice spot. We can see it coming up here. They have a walkway here with a lot of restaurants, and some of the cars are able to pass through. I'm gonna go right here. This is all an area to walk. No cars are allowed down here. It's pretty nice to hang out with your friends, catch a meal down here. In the summertime, there's a lot more people out here. In the winter, even though the weather's pretty nice out here, there's not too many people. It's also a weeknight and it's a holiday, so a lot of folks from Charlottesville are probably visiting their families. Yeah, that's the downtown mall. If you're ever in Charlottesville, make sure you visit. It's a nice spot. Yeah, right now, it's starting to get a little later in the day. It's around 1700. I made my last stop on my tour for the day. I'm here at the Fashion Square Mall. I can tell you, it was depressing walking through there. There were barely any stores open. Most of the spaces were for lease and had been closed. Even Chick-fil-A wasn't there anymore. I worked at that Chick-fil-A when I was in high school. Yeah, it was pretty depressing to walk through there. and see that there's nothing open. This is the exact parking lot that I used to park in when I would come to work at Chick-fil-A when I was a teenager inside the mall here. And then these apartments here weren't here when I was coming up, when I was in high school. That church off there in the distance was there, and then that's Rio Road right there to the back behind that church. But this is what the mall parking lot looks like. It is completely empty. I mean, there's some people waiting for the bus and all that, but I used to come in through that entrance over there as well, where it says Fashion Square right there. Sometimes I used to park right here and go into Chick-fil-A since it's right in that entryway. I remember one time right here, I saw these two guys who were probably 3 or 4 years older than me right here get into a fight, and then the cops came and broke it up. Sometimes I wonder what those two guys are doing. Actually, one of them passed away. I think he got involved in some trouble with the law and I think he got shot. And then the other guy, I don't know what happened to him. I'm not going to mention any names here, but every time I walk through that area that I just showed you, yeah, it reminds me of that of that fight. And then both of them ended up getting arrested. It was crazy, man. The crazy stuff we do whenever we're young. I'm just thankful that I'm still here and I'm a productive member of society, and that I can come back and visit and learn from what happened in the past, and come back and visit my hometown with pride and joy, rather than either being stuck here because I made bad decisions, or coming back and feeling like I didn't exactly leave and that I didn't do anything to better my life. So this is the mall, Fashion Square Mall. It goes all the way around to the front facing Route 29. And then this is the back area, and you can see here there's some apartment some apartment complexes. That apartment complex right there is called Squire Hill. That's been around for quite some time. It's been around since probably before I was in high school, probably around the same time I moved here in 1994 for the first time. But I'm not sure how much longer this mall is going to be around, to tell you the truth. It was depressing in there. I think they're trying to get more people to lease spaces, but I'm going to assume that most malls in the country are facing this problem because a lot of people are buying their merchandise online these days, and it's a lot easier to buy stuff online and to wait for it to show up at your house than to get in the car and drive and buy anything from the store. So that's Fashion Square Mall. Hopefully it survives a few more years, but it's not looking too promising.